let's talk about this, everybody. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how folks are going to vote. Joining Hilton Kelly, one of the world's leading environmentalists. I mean, no one knows more about the environment and how we survive these storms and the politics of surviving these storms than Hilton Kelly does. But we're looking at voting. Barbara Arnwine, America's leading advocate for the vote. Indeed, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, who joins her, the chair of Rainbow Push, said, look, she is the godmother of voter protection, and she really is the chair of the founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition. And we welcome her to the show along with Attorney C.K. Hoffler, legal analyst on Court TV, in addition to being chair of Rainbow Push, former president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest Black bar association in the world, and Reverend Dr. Todd Eury, Esquire. Brilliant, brilliant lawyer. I've been talking to some of your clients this week, and they are very, very happy with you. Hey, Cheese Biscuit. I love this. I love people and their names. So everybody, please join us, like us, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. But Attorney Arnwine and Attorney Hoffler and Reverend Dr. Todd Eury, Attorney Todd Eury, we have been talking with Hilton Kelly about these storms, about climate manipulation, which is very real. And we've been talking about how people are needing much more assistance than they're getting. We've been discussing how so many people are not being made whole coming out of this. That is to say, they're not getting their homes back. You know, as they sign papers, they're being asked if they're willing to relocate. People don't want to relocate, and a lot of people can't. That's where the jobs are. So, there's just a whole lot that we've been going through. But as we are pulling all of this together, Attorney Arnwine, we're also looking at the vote. So before I pivot to you, Attorney Arnwine, and this magnificent panel, Hilton Kelly, we are days away, like 3 weeks away from the presidential election. What's gonna happen? Georgia already said we're not making any accommodations. They got a lot of damages. Hilton.
We know that everybody should be given a fair opportunity to vote. I mean, it doesn't matter what has gone on in your city with flooding or hurricanes or wildfires. I mean, if the storm has passed, people should have an opportunity to cast their vote, whether they set up a makeshift form of voting system or whatever. But their voices must and should be heard. We all deserve to play a part in our democratic system. And so I believe that North Carolina, the folks there should go ahead and somehow find a way to lift their voices up, and so their voices and their vote can be felt around the country.
Well, Attorney Arnwine, what say you? We see that a Georgia judge just said, well, no, things are going to proceed as normal under the most abnormal of circumstances. Attorney Arnwine.
Yeah, this tragedy is one that we've been dealing with for decades. I dealt with these issues since Hurricane Katrina, and of course, Rita. You go through, the tragedy of Sandy and other issues. We've had a lot of these hurricanes because of this season come right before major, both presidential and midterm. And people forget that not only are the people in the path of the hurricane affected, but so are all the first responders.
Mm.
A number of them are displaced. They're not in their home state during this election season while they're trying to help out. So we just have to look at how to protect voters who are displaced, not at home. Most have to flee rapidly without their documents. So it means voter ID states where they have strict voter ID. And now they're trying to do citizenship, meaning that they want you to bring your birth certificate to the polling place to show that you're a U.S. citizen or passport. I mean, this really becomes a major problem for people. So so we have over the years developed model legislation. We've try to get states to pass these different kinds of bills to address these issues. And I am happy that some counties have already said they're going to go to mobile units in North Carolina, at least, to help you reach voters, so the voters do not have to scramble without, they don't have cars, they don't know where to vote. And I'm glad that 29 counties, if I'm right, have already said that they will accept that part of the relief is that they're going to have voters vote anywhere. That you can vote across county lines, which is usually prohibited. So there will be no precinct, oriented voting. There will be open voting centers. So that's all good news. But the bad news is that the depth of the uh, devastation actually extends across all counties in the state, and people are displaced from all counties in the state. And this is a major problem. And then, of course, we got all this horrible disenfranchising, misinformation, and disinformation. And I want people to be very clear. I've dealt with FEMA over several disaster cycles, and people are misinterpreting and being misinformed about what is happening. We are in, and we're living in the age, folks, of terrible, horrific climate change. This is all, if you go and look at any of the scenarios of what's been predicted to happen in a climate change situation, this is the number one, that the hurricanes would become more fierce, ferocious, and frequent than what we've seen in the past. And we are living out the era of overproduction of methane and other pollutants in our environment, and we got to talk about it. I mean, we can't just be sitting here going off of other conspiracy theories. We need to be talking about the real reality of climate change.
Oh, absolutely. But what Hilton Kelly was bringing up were not conspiracies. As he's, of course, has won the Goldman Prize, which is the Nobel Prize of the environmental space. The manipulation of the climate is also real. We seed clouds. If there's a drought, I mean, you're trying to get rain, you need that. But sometimes these experiments go wrong. I mean, there's just a lot going on at this time. See, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, what are you seeing in Georgia? You are, uh, no pun intended, you've been at the eye of the storm, many of them. Just,
I feel like I'm in the eye of the storm now. Good morning. Thanks again for everyone. Well, I think in Georgia, in some parts of Georgia, they were hit by the hurricane as well, and by the storms, so they are impacted um, as well. And I think, and I don't know, I hear echo. I don't know if you hear the echo as well, but in any event, I think in Georgia, it's not as huge of an issue because Georgia was not impacted in the same way that North Carolina was impacted, but it nevertheless was impacted. But I do think that the new rules that the Georgia Election Board put out relative to the counting of ballots, the hand counting of ballots, and other measures those are the voter suppressive measures that people are confronting and addressing right now in Georgia. So the fact that we are recovering from storms and rains, and some people were displaced, and some people were severely impacted by the storms, but not on the same scale, for instance, as North Carolina and Florida. But I think that's just compounding the issue because we're so close to the election. So some of the things that we might normally do in preparation for the election, we're having to go that extra mile because of the climate issues. But quite frankly, the biggest issue that folks are focused on in the eye of the storm here is the new rules for voting, and the fact that anyone who's sitting in that position during the time of the election can challenge ballots. And there's a need for third party, nonpartisan and partisan observation and challenges to ensure the integrity of the process. And this is going to manifest itself mostly in Black and brown communities, progressive communities, communities that typically vote for Democrats. And so that's the climate, if you will, that we're operating in Georgia. And I believe that Georgia is going to determine the election. So there are a lot of resources, a lot of funds that have been expended in Georgia. A lot of people are being trained as we speak. Barbara Arnwine and her team at Transformative Justice Coalition is doing a phenomenal job, and we're working. I'm going to be volunteer my office for a command center, and the NBA is also involved in this effort, and other grassroots organizations. And the thrust is to ensure that people have the right to vote. The right to vote is protected, because it doesn't matter what party you are aligned with. You should want to ensure that everyone has the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And despite the climate issues, despite global warming, despite this horrific hurricane and the impact throughout certain parts of the country, we still want people to have the ability to vote. At least we should all want that. And that's a nonpartisan issue. So election protection, which is what I always say, Barbara Arnwine is the mother of the election protection, and I call it movement, is real, it's significant, and it's going to make a difference in the upcoming elections in Georgia.
No question. I only have about 3 minutes left, Reverend Dr. Yeary. I mean, the church is being asked to assume a lot of responsibility. And in fact, they're being asked by their parishioners because people are struggling, receiving supplies in these hard to reach areas. But, now we've got the vote upon us too. So what say you about all of this?
Well, good morning to you and to my colleagues. I say to whom much is given, much is expected. It's part of the mission. And so whenever there are significant human needs, communities of faith have been called upon to rise to the occasion, to not only participate, but to advocate on behalf of the interests and the needs of not only their parishioners, but also the communities where they find themselves situated. And so a lot of this is going to come down to how well are the congregations organized as best they can with the disruptions that we've seen in the states that have been impacted by the recent storms. Do we have networks of communication? Do we have networks of recruitment for folks who are going to maybe poll watch, or to help with transportation, or to help with information dissemination to prepare for the election? Or folks, what do you do with folks who may have requested absentee ballots, but now you've got disruptions in the mail system? How do you figure that out? And so it is critically important that community leaders, faith leaders, and others are current on the real information. I think what Barbara Arnwine has spoken of is so critically important in this moment, is that we cannot allow ourselves to become victimized by the misinformation, disinformation campaign. Part of the responsibility of faith leaders is, as we would say from the text, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. We got to make sure that we have the truth of the matter that is impacting not just the folks who sit in our pews inside the walls of our facilities, but those who are just outside the door, who are just as important and critical to us as those we see every single worship day, whatever that day might be. And so this is the moment where I would appeal to my colleagues. Get connected, get involved, and get as many people as you can ready to get in where they fit in, so that they can be part of the process of ensuring that civic participation is not adversely harmed in this upcoming election.
Hilton Kelly, I've got about a minute and a half before we have to have a hard out with a break. What are the points of misinformation, the disinformation?
Well, whether it's misinformation, we know one thing is clear, is that we're not getting enough information from our federal government. Our federal government should be more transparent and more visible at this particular time. We cannot allow this issue to go unchecked or uninvestigated. We know that people want answers. How did this 1,000-year storm happen in North Carolina? Where did all of this water come from? Why wasn't people forewarned about the potential flooding that could take place? We have thousands of people that are missing. We have thousands of people that are homeless right now who once had a home. but they no longer have a home. So we need our federal government to step up. Okay, we hear about the misinformation piece, but what can you tell us to help us to understand what took place and how is the federal government and state governments are going to help to rebuild these communities, to rebuild these lives. You can never recover life again. Once it's gone, it's gone. But how can we make people that are still among the living whole again and ensure the people that it will never happen again if that's possible? And if it's not possible, we need to look at ways in which we can move people out of harm's way and get them in a safer position so that they can live happy, more productive lives.
Back with more Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Please go to rainbowpush.org. We need your support as we seek to support you. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive. Just a few minutes.
Coming up, we'll have closing thoughts from Reverend Jesse Jackson right here on Keep Hope Alive.
Your pet isn't just a pet.
Well, let me let everybody speak to everybody. Attorney Arnwine and Attorney Hoffler and Reverend Dr. Todd Geary. I wanted to introduce all of you to Hilton Kelly. He's one of the world's leading environmentalists, and he lives down in Port Arthur, Texas. And he's really helped to guide Reverend through these disasters as they have swept through that part of the world. He's one of the few African-American voices of international stature in that space. And so we're very, very grateful to have him this morning. And of course, he's the recipient of the Goldman Prize, which is the most prestigious prize in the environmental movement. So we're glad to have him and to have such a prestigious panel. Everybody, consider yourselves introduced.
New JTV customers
Thank you. Nice to meet everyone.
when they shop jtv.com/radio.
How are you texting? I'm not.
Can you turn that up?
You know, I have a very good friend who's an author. Her name is Leslie Fields. I don't know if you know Leslie Fields. She works in the space as well.
Oh, most certainly. Leslie spent a lot of time here in the city of Port Arthur and Houston area.
Yes. Yes. I figured she speaks highly of you, but I didn't know if it was more of a mention. She considers you, the godfather of this. And so I just thought I would.
Well, Leslie was doing this work longer than myself, but Leslie is a real champion when it comes to fighting for the environment and also helping to change the legislation to help protect underserved communities in vulnerable locations.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Barbara, you know Leslie because Leslie also did a lot of voting rights work.
Well, most people don't know that the first environmental justice regulation that was enacted under the Clinton administration was actually written in my office. We had some incredible, it was just beautiful. We had several of the leading environmental activists who came and just stationed themselves in my office for a week, and with Dion Ferris and some others, and just wrote the hell out of that regulation. And it was, really important. So the environmental justice movement is something, I've been acquainted with ever since. The coining of the phrase environmental justice when I was in law school and worked with Ben Chavis and others, these issues. So it's a long-running passion of mine. It's the environment and dealing with the worsening conditions of climate change. And so it's great to be on this panel with you, Mr. Kelly. And thank you for your amazing work that you've done for all throughout Texas, throughout our nation. Thank you.
Well, thank you as well. And it's an honor to be online with you guys and having this most certainly very important conversation. So we need more voices to speak up to help save our folks because we know in these vulnerable locations, it's mostly Black and brown people that are suffering the most. And we want to protect all life. It doesn't matter the ethnicity. But at the same time, it seems like it's always Black and brown people that are impacted the most because we are the ones that are living in those low-lying areas where we have been for many, many years. And a lot of times it's us there, keeping us there with state laws also backing up the federal laws from the Jim Crow era. And we learned to thrive there, but now the waters are rising higher.
Hold on.
We know what it's like to live with flooding in Mississippi and the Delta areas. We know what it's like to live with flooding in
Stand by.
Florida and Southeast Texas.
Stand
So,
by. Stand by. We're coming up.
To Reverend Jesse Jackson at KeepHopeAliveRadio.com.
Hey, everybody. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Second hour coming up as we talk about the vote, as we talk about Hurricanes Milton and Helene and how people without identification, how will they vote, Attorney Barbara Arnwine? I mean, what will they do? And how will people be? No, when we get back, I want you to talk about that. Well, I got about 30 seconds. What do they do? I mean, because it's getting harder and harder to vote. 30 seconds. Attorney Arnwine, 30? Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, what I want people to really understand is that the movement, the anti-democracy movement, has had a goal for the last decade. That goal is to limit the number of people who vote. And so right now, as we're all talking, there are 249 lawsuits addressing some issue around voting. 131 of those lawsuits are negative anti-voting lawsuits, and they're all trying to limit drop boxes, limit early voting, limit absentee voting, so it's harder for citizens to vote, to make it harder for jurisdictions to count ballots that may not be completely filled out, etc. All of this is part of this game. They are saying
Barbara Arnwine? We'll be right back on the other side of the break.
Keep Hope Alive. Listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website at www.keephopealiveradio.com.
I'm sorry, Barbara Arnwine. You have so much information. It's hard to pack it into 30 seconds, and I just can't extend it because of the syndication. We get California takes over. But I've got about a minute before we come back up, and people are tuning in online. What did you want to say? Because this impacts a lot of folks.
Oh, yes. I mean, and people need to really understand that this is the nature, of what happens in disasters. I mean, in 2005, my office spent, 2 years fighting for the people in the wake of, Hurricane Katrina. That was followed by Ida and all the rest. We've been on the front line of at least 10 major hurricanes over these years. And I just think people need to really hold their legislatures accountable. They need to have legislation already on the books.
Absolutely.
And welcome.
Barbara, stand by. Hold on one moment. Hold on one moment.
The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily the views of this station, but strictly of our host and his guest.
To speak with Reverend Jackson live, call toll-free 1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-866-594-4673. And now, the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the second hour of Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. We are within 3 weeks of the presidential election. Have you checked with vote.org, Ryan Lee, to make sure that you are still on the voter rolls? You have, and you still are?
Yes.
Checking
weekly.
Checking. You got to, because you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Found out that he was not, that he'd been purged from the rolls because we've been talking about it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So everybody, but early voting is beginning. So hold this number, Ryan. 1-866-our-vote. 1-866-our-vote. If you go to the polls and they tell you that you can't vote, or if there's some kind of issue, don't leave. call all of these lawyers who are stationed at 1-866-OUR-VOTE, and they will be able to help you. Chief among them, the godmother of this space, voter protections, voting rights, is Attorney Barbara Arnwine, former executive director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Of course, that was created by John Kennedy more than 60 years ago, trying to protect civil rights under law. She is the founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition. She does such brilliant work. And we're talking about these hurricanes and how people are going to be able to vote. And we've been talking with Hilton Kelly, one of the world's leading environmentalists, about how people are going to be made whole. How are they going to vote? Wow. I mean, if you're a renter, if you're a homeowner, it seems like renters and homeowners are almost on level ground, Hilton Kelly, and Attorney C.K. Hoffler and Reverend Dr. Todd Deary, because it seems like nobody's going to really be made whole. And something needs to change here. I think the laws have to be rewritten because, of course, all the tax dollars, the government is funded by you. You need to be able to get your money's worth. Wow. Hilton Kelly, I've got about a minute before we go to break. What are we looking at?
Well, we have to step up to the occasion. America has gone through many changes over the years, from dust storms to flooding, hurricanes to wildfires. But we always step up to the occasion to find ways in which to create a space where our citizens can cast their vote. And I believe that mobile units, as someone stated earlier, would be a good adaptation for that to happen. We need to make it mobile and get the voting booths to the people if the people can't come to the voting booth.
Well, everybody, we got to talk about that. And you, as you did say, Attorney Barbara Arnwine, you said it's you who said we need to have these mobile units. What else can be done? I've got 1 minute for you, Attorney Arnwine.
Yes, you need to have much different voter ID requirements because there'll be strict photo ID and people don't have it. Then it's going to be difficult. So you need to change your voter identification where you have other ways of people identifying themselves. Remember, prior to 2003, there were no strict voter ID requirements in this country, and people voted. Some of our presidents we're most proud of was voted during that time and since. And so people, and there still are many states that don't have these strict voter ID requirements. So they need to be relaxed. They need to go away, period. You also need to make sure that first responders are able to vote like people who vote overseas. The UCOVA principles, that's the act that covers those who are overseas or who are veterans in the military, or are military, employed by the military and are overseas. It's a much easier voting system than any that exists anywhere. And you need to extend a lot of those UCOVA practices to people who are displaced and treat them the same way, which gives them a lot easier access to the voting process. There's a lot that we can do to address this, and we should. And it doesn't make sense that we wait until the last minute to address emergencies. We know there are going to be wildfires in the West. We know there's going to be horrible hurricanes hitting us. We know there's going to be tornadoes in the Midwest. We know all of this. Why have we not proactively addressed this? FEMA, the funding for FEMA, there was major legislation. Everybody needs to know this, that was proposed to extend and to funding for FEMA to make more money available. And the GOP legislators in the House voted it down. Okay? Why is that happening? It's because they really fundamentally, too many people don't want people to vote. This anti-democracy movement is real, it's evil, it's wicked, it's got to be fought, and it's got to be won against. So we make sure that the number one principle in a democracy is to make sure every eligible citizen is able to vote, not to block them because you don't like the way they might vote. This is absolutely unacceptable.
Well, everybody, let's call us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. And I can tell you, My mother is from South Florida, and she says this is yes. Did they have hurricanes? Yes. Did they have flooding? Yes. But she said this is unlike anything she knew as a child. Granted, that was 70 years ago, and she said there's something horrifically wrong with the weather, not just climate change, but there has been manipulation. I mean, it's something that's been reported on. And sometimes these experiments go wrong. But we're also doing a lot to harm the environment, everybody. There's a lot going on at one time. In the meantime, we've got an election. And a lot of people have lost everything, including their identification. What are they going to do? Including the people who need to identify them. The first responders, as you pointed out, Attorney Barbara Arnwine, many of them are homeless now. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then you did have Secretary Mayorkas. He did say, well, we do not have enough money. And then the response by the president was, we do have money. We're sitting on billions. But he was saying, we're going to run out in this cycle. You know what? People need to be made whole. And you have a lot of people who are in a lot of pain and who are very frightened. And winter's about to hit. And we have thousands of people missing. Come on, everybody. And we've got an election that everybody needs to be able to vote in. How's that going to happen? Back with more of Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Hey, everybody, we're going to show Vigilantes Inc., Greg Palast movie on voter suppression, Barbara Arnwine. We're going to show it on October 21st at 6 p.m. at Rainbow Push. Everybody in the Chicago area, it's going to be great. He's going to be in town. So we're going to be conducting kind of like a town hall meeting. We're going to reach out to you to see if you and others can participate in it so we can have a Q&A and discuss the movie. Because when you see the movie, it will inspire you to vote. It will inspire you. So 6 p.m., October 21st, Rainbow Push, 1 week from Monday. You need to be at Rainbow Push as we see this very, very important film. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Your opinion counts. 1-866-59-4-HOPE.
These clip-on earrings are like giving me the flux. Oh, man.
Good morning, John Nichols. I'm gonna get you locked in with Santita and Keep Hope Alive.
Oh, I couldn't hear her. I'm sorry, Barbara. Did you say something?
Oh my God.
Well, I couldn't hear her.
She was saying she only wears clip-on earrings, so she understands what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, because I could never keep an ear pierced.
Oh my God.
I had them pierced twice, Barbara. I am miserable right now. And I love these earrings, but I've had to take them off like 2 or 3 times. I'm like, I feel like I'm being no, not until 8:30. Yeah. Okay. Okay, but we've got John Nichols on. John Nichols, do you know Hilton Kelly?
I know who Hilton Kelly is, of course.
Okay, well, he is on with us. We've been talking about the vote and all of this, but we've got Attorney Barbara Arnwine, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, and John is running to church, so he's going to say a little bit, and then he's going to run to church. He has extra duties this morning.
I do have a few more than usual.
That's all right.
But it's always an honor. It's a great way to start the morning, always with this incredible crew of people.
Well, you know what? I think we were doing the right thing because I was fighting to get here this morning through traffic because of our marathon. And my Uber driver heard me start the show on the phone. And I said, can you wait a minute? He said, I can wait here as long as you like. I'm like, but I do need to come upstairs. He said, I got to go back to work. But that's why I had to wait till 7:30 because he was getting a lot of information that he ordinarily would not get. I've got to give him his tip right now. Excuse me. Let me give him his tip. Hold on. Because he was lovely. He was lovely. I got to do that. Got to give him a little bit extra. Because he was lovely, and I was running out that car. And I started at 5:45.
Yeah, I
So
got
the
down.
marathon was just overwhelming.
Oh, it is overwhelming. And please, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, look, I want them to go on and get started because the Kenyan is going to be finished in 5 minutes.
Right. Unfortunately, today I've only got about a couple more minutes.
Whew.
Hey, Tom Nichols. It's Barbara.
Hello, Barbara.
How are you?
It's our time of. I am well. It's our time of year, isn't it? Watching all the troubles and challenges in the world.
Oh yes, and trying to deal with all of these efforts to just destroy votes and destroy voters.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Votes. It's horrid. But
you keep me informed. Keep me informed if there's anything specific that arises that you think merits some extra attention. I'll see what I can do to make sure we get people focused on it.
Okay, stand by. How much time?
For CK
1 minute. Okay.
Attorney
Oh yeah.
She's amazing.
The best.
Oh, you're so kind. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, John.
Morning.
Attorney C.K. Hoffler. And we got Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary before he goes to preach.
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning, John. Good.
I'm so glad to be with you, my brother.
Good to hear your voice.
Your voice as well. Sounding very resonant to me, I must say. I think that whatever you preach will be very powerful.
Huh? We're up.
Coming up.
Hallelujah. Okay, John, you will have your 7 minutes, and then we're gonna. You won't call me a heathen.
I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
I won't. I apologize.
No. But I mean, you'll hear my voice, and I'll guide you on out. Stand by.
At your service.
1-866-594-4673.
Hey everybody, Georgia is on our mind, as is North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Greenville, Florida, Greenville. We have a running. Well, it's not even a joke. It's fun because our people are Greenville. At least my father's people are, and my mother's people are from South Florida, and beyond, going to the South, going into the Caribbean. So I'm just praying for everybody today because it's this is a tough day for everybody. So sending so much love to all of you today. And October 21st, 1 week from tomorrow at Rainbow Push at 6 p.m., we will be showing Vigilantes Inc. And Greg Palast will be in town to guide us in a conversation about Vigilantes Inc., which is the rebranding of the Ku Klux Klan. But it's a show, it's a movie, a documentary about voter suppression. Did you not know that Georgia was not always a slave territory, but the first family to bring enslaved Africans into Georgia was Governor Kemp's family? Did you know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Governor Kemp. He doesn't want anyone to know that. Oh yeah, you can't make this stuff up. You can't. And so many other things you're going to find out when you see that movie. So join us at Rainbow Push at 6 p.m. October 21st. We have, of course, Attorney Barbara Arnwine, really the godmother of voter protections and voting rights in the United States today, the leading lawyer in that space. We've got Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary, Rainbow Push, and senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Maryland, the former president of the National Bar Association, the legal analyst on Court TV, and chair of Rainbow Push, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. Of course, she's opened her office to do specifically voter protection, Attorney Arnwine. And of course, we've got one of the world's leading environmentalists. He's been so generous with his time today. Hilton Kelly. He's the winner of the Goldman Prize. The Goldman Prize is the equivalent of the Nobel for environmentalists. And he's one of the few African Americans to get it. Are you the only one? And certainly, no, you're not. But not too many. We need to be in that space, but we're not there. And of course, we need to be there because we're so disproportionately impacted by these climate crises and these climate disasters. We've got running to church this morning, John Nichols. John Nichols, what say you? We've got a few weeks before the election. You got to come back next week and talk about Wisconsin, that swing state, Michigan and everything. Everything's hitting at one time. Wherever you want to go, you got it, my friend.
Well, it is all hitting at once, Santita, and this is a vital moment. You've got such a great group of people here to make sense of it. And I will tell you, that's the message I'll give you today. You need to slow down, not speed up. Pause for a moment, take a look around at everything that is happening, and then find your best place to intervene. We all have a duty over the next several weeks, and that is to make sure, first and foremost, that our democracy survives, right? That we make that commitment to voting rights, that everyone gets to vote who is qualified, everyone gets to have their vote counted, and that it be an easy, joyous, fun, good process, not one that is, filled with barriers, difficulties, and complexity. I'm thinking this morning a lot about Georgia because Georgia's early voting begins soon, and because also it's important to understand that Georgia is the state that at this point looks to be most vulnerable. The assaults on voting rights are so intense. It's why it's so good that Greg Palast has made his film. It's why it's so good that so many of the people on this show are working in Georgia or focusing on its challenges. It's not the only place where there are challenges. It's important to understand. They exist all over the country, and there are great groups working on it. But what's going on in Georgia is deeply concerning. And we can focus, and we should focus, on all the difficulties and challenges. But I'll give you this one bit this morning, and that is that when early voting begins, one of the first people who plans to cast a ballot is former President Jimmy Carter. He's 100 years old. And he said recently that while he was excited about his 100th birthday and other people were making a big deal, the first former president of the United States to make it to 100, what he was most excited about was making it to mid-October, living that much longer, and certainly we all pray he lives a lot longer, but making it to mid-October so he could cast his vote for Kamala Harris. And I really want to emphasize, this is an important thing to understand about Reverend Carter. I call him Reverend Carter. He's a preacher, but not quite formalized. Although he teaches Sunday school more than I ever will. About President Carter, this is an important thing to understand about him. He was born just 60 years after the Civil War. He grew up in a segregated South, so segregated by Jim Crow and everything else, a violent South that did not respect the voting rights of vast portions of its citizens. Whole counties, whole regions could not vote, could not participate. He came up in that time, and he's the first to tell you, he didn't come up perfect. He didn't come as somebody who was enlightened in every way, but he learned along the way. He developed a deep and passionate commitment to voting rights. Remember, after his presidency at the Carter Center, he devoted his life, his time, he and Rosalind, to voting rights, to making sure that democracies worked around the world. And so as I think about this coming week, the thing that I think is truly beautiful and truly good, among so many other truly beautiful and good things, is that Jimmy Carter is going to cast a vote, and that vote is going to be for the future. Here's a guy who's 100 years old, not looking back, but looking ahead and saying that this country that has had so many barriers, so many challenges, so many frustrations, that he is going to vote for someone who wants to remove those barriers, to overcome those frustrations, to move this country in a positive and yet joyous direction. And so I'm going to focus this week on Jimmy Carter voting, and I'm going to focus this week on everyone else in Georgia who wants to vote. And I'm going to make sure in my writing and my speaking, whatever I do, that we raise up this wonderful reality of people casting their votes. And if anybody gets in the way of it, that we call them out as the cruel and wrong-headed forces of the past, trying once more to hold us back. But the fact is, they are not going to hold us back. As Kamala Harris says, we're not going back.
We're not going back. We're not going back. Never, never, never. Thank you so much, John Nichols. Our love to your congregation.
I love you all. I wish I could spend so much more time with you. I've got at my house of worship, we have a special gathering this weekend. So my great responsibility is to be at the door to greet people and make sure they go the right direction, which is a little like journalism, only done in person.
Well, thank God for that. There you go. Blessings to you. Sending you so much love. Let me bring in Anita from North Carolina. Anita, how are you doing today, Anita?
I miss you and your brother and the civil rights movement so bad. You need to be on The View. You need to be everywhere they're talking about voting and why your father had to carry on Martin Luther King's legacy. This is so essential right now for people to understand before we lose everything. For the last years, the English settlers have come here, Santee. You really need to understand your significance, and Jonathan and your brother, Jesse Jr. You guys can just do much, with this. But I want to tell you that I'm in central North Carolina where Chapel Hill is. We get hit every time the hurricanes come, either on the one side of Florida or the other side of Florida. We get the residual rain. And I'm starting to see sinkholes here. And it was in the rural area where I first heard of a sinkhole maybe about 8 years ago, and it scared me to death. But after these new hurricanes, there are more and more sinkholes, and they don't talk about it. And this is central North Carolina, so this water is also, looking for other places to spread to. And I'm thinking we may not even have a south if something continues to happen like this, because this water is just going to break everything up. And the young people really like the mountains. My daughter was talking about moving to the mountains. I'm like, are you crazy? It's too much wildlife up there. Mountains, seriously. She's in Greensboro right now talking about she's going, and I'm scared to death. She's by herself. And I'm like, no, that's what the kids, the young people love it here. So it's something beautiful there. I've never gone because I'm scared of bears and snakes and all these things. But I'm worried. And thousands of people, they're reporting it's only 100 or so people were missing. And you guys are talking about 1,000 people are missing in North Carolina. That's not on the TV media.
You know what, Anita, it was initially. And then Hilton Kelly, it seems like, we're not focusing on North Carolina at all. And that's the worst hurricane since Katrina. Hilton Kelly, can you make any? Well, now they're saying it's worse than Katrina. I mean, but in terms of the death toll, but the death toll might exceed that but they're not even talking about that. CK. I mean, Hilton Kelly. What?
I mean, yes, this is a horrible storm that went through North Carolina, and I do believe that our federal government should be more transparent in helping people to understand exactly what happened. We have the scientists in place to help keep us abreast of what's happening, how to best understand this weathering system, but yet we cannot let the media light go off on what happened in North Carolina and in Florida and other places where there is chronic flooding. We must get a better handle on disseminating this information to the public so that they can formulate a plan in which to better protect their communities and themselves and their families. So our federal government cannot let the light go out on this. So if that happens, then many people will never, or if ever, be whole again and have a home again. It's going to be years. So we must continue to keep this in the forefront and kind of push our federal government and state government to step up and educate the people on what they need to do in the event that this potential storm comes again.
Well, yes, very quickly. Then you, Barbara.
For these battery places for the electric cars to come here in the rural area. I mean, they've cleared it, and then they said they're going to stop doing it. Yeah, so what you all are saying, and my son has been displaced from two of his places that he's lived, and the rent has just doubled. And the mother of his children has a cancer problem that's in her family, really fatal. And so everything that affects him, I mean, they're clearing people out. They've been doing this for years. And so when you all say they're clearing people out, I believe it. And this battery thing has been advertised in Chapel Hill since about 8 years ago or longer. And they didn't start building on it. Then they said they just ceased the building of it for some reason. So, Well, somebody who lived in North Carolina for many years and traveled the state and did a lot of work in Asheville and Lumberton and all over the state. I just want people to know that Asheville is mountainous. It's a very beautiful mountainous area but so it shows you that there is no hiding place, right, from climate change. That if you're in the low country, you're going to suffer. If you're in the mountains, who would have thought Asheville would suffer the way it has suffered? What people need to know is that the government is going to only make you so whole right now until we pass new legislation that restores people 100%. There is no such obligation on the government right now. Never has been. It was part of our fight in Katrina. It's been part of our fight in every subsequent one. That's why, if you were watching Milton, so many of the people crying afterwards were saying, "I don't have insurance." The insurance is where we have had the battles. Is making these insurance companies where people did have insurance to actually perform and to serve and to give people what they had promised they would do under their contracts. But a lot of people don't have insurance. A lot of people can't. Part of the federal laws is to make sure that in certain areas that are low-lying that you are able to have flood insurance. But you got to still get it. So part of the problem is that we have not really fully, as a nation, looked to this issue about how do we protect people, especially when we know now that it's not a matter of choice. Because we used to say, well, it's a problem of choice. People have chosen to live in low-lying communities. Now we know that that's not true because every community is in this. And so we need a whole different federal system when it comes to addressing the real realities of climate change and what it do to communities throughout this country. And we got a GOP legislator that has no interest right now in the House in doing this.
Sure.
Come back to pass emergency legislation, and they have not
Well, of course, and you've got corporatist Democrats too, who are helping the insurance industry, who are denying people coverage and claims. So I mean, it's just there is a system that does not work for Americans, and renters and homeowners are almost in the same position because the fact is, Barbara, a lot of people can't afford to buy insurance. They're barely making rent or mortgages. Absolutely. It's got to change. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll be back in just a minute. Greg Palast.
Your opinion counts.
Okay.
1-866
Barbara?
594-HOPE.
Yeah.
That's
People.
This is CK.
Oh, I'm sorry.
have to run.
CK?
Yes, I'm going to have to run.
Oh, would you like to say something to people before you go? Because I was going to ask Barbara and Hilton to speak to folks. But before you go, CK, what do you want to say?
What I want people to say is recognize the connection between climate control and voter suppression. That connection, when I say climate control, global warming, what I will call global warming and climate-related issues and catastrophes, and recognize that that's a factor in voting. But we have always risen above. We've always found solutions, and we'll find solutions to continue to fight this time around. But we have to recognize the issue to find the solution. And then finally, we always say this is the most consequential election of our time, but this really is. If you don't believe it, just read Project 2025.
Good morning, Greg Palast. I'm going to get you locked in with Santita and keep up alive, okay?
Project 2025, because it's not that pages. And just reflect on the impact that it will have on you and your community. So vote.
All right, everybody. Oh, Greg Palast.
Greg Palast on the line.
And you're on with attorney Barbara Arnwine. And I don't know if you know Hilton Kelly. Hilton Kelly is one of the world's leading environmentalists. He's the recipient of the Goldman Prize, which is the Nobel in that space. And, you know, he's been so helpful to us. You know, you got a voting issue now there, but you have a survival issue because people are not getting what they need. You know, you got to be prepared for emergencies, and emergencies happen when you don't expect them.
Well, what a distinguished panel. I am not worthy.
Oh,
wow. And yes, so I'm glad to be on with you, and I'm glad I'll be seeing you in Chicago on the 21st.
Absolutely. We're gonna have a great time. My mother said we got to get little sandwiches. Maybe some popcorn. You know, my mother, she always wants to feed people. Stand by. We're coming up.
I am laughing.
Listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Call
Hey, Hannah. Hannah's in South Carolina. We say hello to her. Yes.
South Carolina.
Palmetto State. Boom, boom. Oh, I love that. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Turn Gladys up. Let's hear her. I just need to hear this first line. Come on now. Here we go. Oh, wow. It is hard to believe this song is 50 years old.
Wow.
If it's great, it's just great. And you know what? I don't want her to rearrange it, and I don't want to hear anyone else sing it, quite frankly. She is it. We love you, the Empress of Soul. Yeah, Gladys is so bad they had to give her a title, had to give her a territory because she got it. I'm mad at Gladys. Love you. Georgia's on our minds, though. So is Tennessee. So is Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. We have got hurricanes Milton and Helene that have wreaked havoc and major damage. And people are trying to figure out how to vote. People are trying to figure out how to survive. Attorney Barbara Arnwine, Transformative Justice Coalition. You know, that's another place where you and Daryl Jones are going to have to go. I mean, goodness gracious. Oh, wait, that's right, because another hurricane is coming. It's Hurricane Barbara Arnwine. We love it. Oh.
We're going to next week on the 23rd through the 27th.
Okay.
TJC will be embedded in Georgia, and we're going to be on that mighty, southeastern coast in Brunswick, dealing with those killers of Ahmaud Arbery who are trying to get their murder convictions vacated. We're going to fight that, and then but while we're fighting that, we're going to be running people to the polls. We're going to have the John Lewis Good Trouble Bus House. We're going to be helping people to get to the polls to vote, and then we're going Saturday and Sunday to Savannah and doing nothing but rise to the polls. We're going to do the parade for the university. We're going to do everything we can to make sure people vote, and we can't wait to make sure people watch Greg Palas's mighty movie, Vigilante.
Absolutely. Inc. Absolutely. At Rainbow Push. And, we're going to connect with some of our allies, Barbara Arnwine, all over the country. And hopefully you too, Hilton Kelly, so that we can all watch it and then participate and talk about it afterwards. Because, now a big, big piece of the vote is you got to deal with disaster relief. It's happening all over the place. Before we pivot to you, Greg Palast, what do you want to put into this discussion as we're talking about the vote, Hilton Kelly?
Well, one of the things that I think is critically important, as was stated earlier, we need to find a way to ensure that those people in impacted areas like in North Carolina, in Florida, have their opportunity to vote. And I think mobile units, as it was stated earlier, is a good idea to get the voting booth to the people. Because right now, many people are displaced and they're cut off in many ways. So we have to bring the voting booth to the people that are suffering right now, and also give them an opportunity to vote for who they want in office.
Amen to that. Well, you know what? October 21st. Well, you're going to be in Chicago before then. You're going to be in a lot of different places, but you're going to set up camp in Georgia after the 22nd. But you're going to be in Chicago, and we're going to be watching Vigilantes Inc. again, back by popular demand. Everybody, Attorney Arnwine, wants to see this movie one more time. Maybe we can't believe what we saw in the first time we saw it. I mean, people stayed all the way till the end. Then they were angry. They said, well, wait a minute. What do we do? What do we do now? Greg Palast. Yeah. What is this movie about? Well, okay, Hilton Kelly, what you say? Organize?
Let that anger turn into something positive and give the people a platform. So it's just like what's happening in North Carolina right now, what's going on in Florida. Our federal government cannot turn the light off and just think that these people are just going to dissipate and go away. It's time that we give those people a voice. It's time that we help them and show them how to organize and speak truth to power and make their demands known.
Okay. Greg Palast? Yes. Barbara, please. No, Barbara, before you forget, hold on. Barbara, before you forget, what were you about to say?
Say, people need to really understand. I sued FEMA. People, in fact, our lawsuit was so unpopular that they had a betting line on it in Vegas about how bad we were going to lose the lawsuit. And we sued, FEMA successfully right, after the disaster of Hurricane Katrina. So we know that, there's need to make sure that everybody's fully covered. But I'm telling you, this obligation is not only on the federal government, it's on the private sector for insurance, making sure insurance is there. It's also on the state governments. Don't let them off the hook. These state governments know that they could do better, and especially refusing to extend their voting registration deadlines. It's not the judges who are at fault. It's these state legislatures who refuse to expand. These governors who did not. I want people to understand that your right to vote is precious. Don't ever give it up. We should have much better systems. The UACOVA system that exists for overseas voting allows that if you don't get an absentee ballot on time, if it's not received, that you can use the federal write-in absentee ballot. It's a very simple system, very accessible system. Why don't we have it broadly available for those who are impacted by disasters, for others? I'm just telling you, there's better ways of running our democracy to make it accessible for everybody who needs it. And mobile units, yes, get rid of these voter ID requirements that people can't use. And don't fall for the okey-doke people. They're telling you that they got to make people prove citizenship. You want to take your vote? Do you want to always have to take a passport or a birth certificate to vote? Are you kidding me? People, we've got to understand that all of these are efforts to suppress the vote,
Sure.
make sure people can't vote, and when you're displaced, that's when you really realize how bad these requirements are.
Absolutely.
Systemic, structural change in the way in which we allow people to have access to the ballot.
Greg Palast, the floor is yours.
Okay, so what we've been talking about is a movie called Vigilantes Inc., or Vigilantes Incorporated. Vigilantes Inc., America's New Vote Suppression Hitmen. America's New Vote Suppression Hitmen. And by the way, the definition of vote suppression, which is this fancy term that we use, is basically shafting people of color out of their vote. That's what vote suppression means. When someone steals your car, Santita, you don't say, my car has been suppressed. You say, my car has been stolen.
So Vigilantes Inc. Now, here's the fun thing,
Two things. Barbara's seen it many times. She loves it every time. And Santita's seen it many times.
I love it every time.
Reverend Jackson went through the whole thing, even though they're trying to take your father out because he's it's difficult for him to watch for an hour or so. And he refused to leave, man. He just grabbed his wheelchair. I'm not going.
Why does Santita, the Reverend, and Barbara
Watch this film because, first of all, it's a movie. It's entertaining. Vigilante Inc. And here's the nice thing to know: you can get it for free. You can stream it for free. Leonardo DiCaprio has created a website to launch the film, and he's made it available to the planet and every voter in America for gratis. It's at a site called SaveYourVote.org. Save your vote, not my vote, not Santita's vote. Save your vote, not our vote. SaveYourVote.org. Sorry, SaveYourVote.org. SaveYourVote.org. And the reason I give you that site is that you can not only stream the film Vigilantes Inc. there for nothing, but it's called SaveYourVote.org because at the very top you have a button to check your registration. Number two, it has phone numbers and contact details for Rainbow Push, Barbara Arnwine, Transformative Justice Coalition, the NAACP, and Black Voters Matter. These are the sponsors of the showings of our film, but most important, they tell you how to protect yourself. It also has the 866 number that if you need one of Barbara's lawyers or one of the flying teams of lawyers that will come to your rescue, that's there too. And you also get the 5 ways to protect yourself from vigilantes. Now, who are these vigilantes? Why do we call it Vigilantes Inc.? Because this year, in 2024, for the first time since the Jim Crow era, since 1946, for the first time nationwide, we have the Trumpsters, the MAGA knots, who have come up with a system where individuals, not the government, but individuals are challenging your vote. I can say, hey, Santita Jackson does not live in Chicago. She should not be allowed to vote. Don't count her ballot. And if you think this is a minor thing, Mark Elias, who is Kamala Harris's new voting rights lawyer, has said that this virus out of Georgia, which is where it began, this virus out of Georgia is the #1 threat to our election. And dig this. As of August 5th, I looked it up. These Trumpites, and I'm not being partisan by saying it's all Republican. Every one of these people acting as a vigilante is Republican. 8,500 self-appointed vigilantes have already challenged 851,000 voters. 851,000 voters. I looked at their list. It's almost entirely voters of color. Some young people. And of course, the color is blue, which is why they're doing it. And so if you can, and you can get the warnings, you can get the check your registration. And by the way, you think you're registered. I know you've been voting in the same place 20 years. You don't have to register. Well, watch the film. Because you will see a woman, 92 years old, in a walker. I was at the Atlanta polling station when she was literally thrown out into a storm. Her granddaughter, you'll see on the camera, is hysterical. Why? Is she's crying and she's hysterical because she said, this woman my grandmother's been voting here for 50 years, and now they just wiped her off the record. She was crying, and we went to her home, the home that the state of Georgia said she no longer lived in. And so she couldn't vote. I went to that home, and there on the wall was a picture of her having dinner, her grandmother having dinner with Martin Luther King from 50 years old earlier, because Martin Luther King was Christine Jordan, that's the voter, Christine Jordan's cousin. So they can knock off Martin Luther King's cousin after 50 years at the same polling station. Your vote is in jeopardy. And Santita's been telling me when we've warned people to check the site, SaveYourVote.org, people are saying, wow, my name was off the voter rolls. You can, in many states, there's very few states where you can re-register now, but in 22 states, get ready, you can register on election day. And when you're at the polling station, someone says, oh, you can't vote, your name's on the rolls. Say, if you're in California, if you're in Nevada, if you are in Wisconsin, Michigan, and I think North Carolina, Maryland. So, and especially in those swing states, you can say, I want to register right now, and then give me a regular ballot. So So that's in the film. You'll see that. And these vigilantes, you'll also meet Major Gamaliel Turner, who an African-American career military officer whose vote was taken away by these vigilante skunks. And you'll meet the vigilante who took away his vote, the vice chairman of the Republican Party of Southern Georgia, who actually dresses like a vigilante, Doc Holliday. And we did the interview while he's wearing a loaded gun holster because he likes to pretend he's actually a vigilante. This is no joke. I mean, so it's actually funny and weird and tragic at the same time. So it's a movie. Bring your popcorn. It's narrated by the wonderful Rosario Dawson. It's produced by Martin Sheen, my favorite president, President Bartlett.
Yes.
And if Barbara's seen it many times and wants to see it again, and Santita Jackson and the Reverend are inviting you to Rainbow Push in Chicago on October 21st. That's a week from Monday, and I'll see you there at 6 p.m.
That's it.
There will also be showings in Georgia, in Atlanta on the 25th. There'll be a showing in Madison on the 17th. And then we're going to be teaming up with Barbara Arnwine and the Good Trouble Bus in Savannah on the 27th. So please go to saveyourvote.org. Get the information you need, because no political party, no organization, no one's going to save your vote but you.
Mm-hmm.
SaveYourVote.org. Watch the film. It's free. Thank you, Leonardo. And it's free. But also you get that information you need to protect your vote. Don't assume you're still registered. Don't assume that someone, these
Vigilantes can actually challenge you on election day, and you mail in your ballot and you think it's being counted, and they're blocking it. Please track your ballot. We're going to help you get through this. But today, voting is a contact sport.
Mm-hmm.
So be careful. Don't assume it's just showing up and filling out a ballot. Please vote early. But you'll enjoy the film. It's kind of funny, weird, and it will break your heart too. So the film is Vigilantes, Inc., America's New Vote Suppression Hitmen. It's free at saveyourvote.org. I keep saying that, and I'm going to see you at Rainbow Push on October 21st. I'm going to see you in Savannah, Atlanta, in Madison, and other showings around the country. Please, it's no cost, but let me tell you, your vote is valuable. That's the only reason they want to steal it from you.
Well, it's no cost, but you'll pay dearly if you don't have the information. That is why you need to see this movie. Since I have Hilton Kelly on, before we go to break, Hilton, what do people in these areas where folks have lost everything, what from your vantage point, because you've survived these disasters and you have to help people get through these disasters, what do they need immediately? Is Hilton Kelly still there?
I think he locked out.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what, Barbara Arnwine, what do people need? What do they need? What do they need? And
Make sure that they call the Board of Elections in their state to find out how they can vote, or more importantly, call us. Call 866-OUR-VOTE and ask us, how do you vote in your state? What are your options, especially if you've been displaced by the storm?
what Barbara, hold on one moment. Hold on. Because remember, a lot of cell towers have been downed. A lot of people might not have access to even, well, certainly not internet, but even their mobile phones, they might not have access. What else can they do?
Well, listen, most cell phones, fortunately, are up,
Mm-hmm.
but power is still out in
It's sketchy.
Florida, and not able to hear shows either. But I am saying, folks, I want everybody right now. You have relatives in these areas. You have figured out ways to reach them. Reach them when you talk to them. Talk about their right to vote. Remind them that they cannot forget to vote, that there's ways to do this, that they can go to whatever shelter, whatever entity that they are been in contact with for their survival, that entity can also put them in touch with their election board to get them their absentee ballots or to tell them where they can go to vote. And remember, in 29 counties right now in the state of North Carolina, you can vote in any of those counties, regardless of where you are originally from. If you've been displaced, don't worry about it. You can still vote in the county where you are now, in those 29 counties. And you have to just really reach out to us, figure out a way to get to the 866 our vote hotline. In North Carolina, it's 888 our vote. Just reach out because we are there to help you. We really want to make sure everybody is able to vote. Don't worry. You have the right, and like Greg was saying, in many of these countries, states, including North Carolina, to do same-day voter registration during the actual early voting period. You also have that right in various states to do that during election day itself. I just want people to know that there are ways, and the one thing you got to keep in your mind is that everything is going on. How do I eat? Where do I? Where can I get some clothing? How do I shift my head? But all of that somehow keep on your mind. I gotta be able to vote because this has to be different next time.
Well, you know what? Let me give this Hannah Parker, excuse me. You know, Hannah, I know who you are. She's from South Carolina. And she said, due to the storm crisis, the voter registration deadline in South Carolina, Ryan, has been extended until tomorrow. And she said, if you have questions, you should go to SC, like South Carolina, scvotes.org or vote411.org. So that's scvotes.org or vote411.org. If you are in South Carolina, the registration deadline has been extended through tomorrow. So please go to scvotes.org or vote411.org. We invite you to be at Rainbow Push at 930 East 50th Street at 6 p.m. next Monday. Brian, I hope you can get by. It's going to be great because the movie is great. I promise you. It's great. It's great. It's great. It's great. At 6 p.m. Going to get some closing thoughts from this magnificent panel. Back in just a minute. Thank you, Hannah.
We'll have closing thoughts from Reverend Jesse Jackson right here on Keep Hope Alive.
What you say?
Wow, you look fantastic.
Oh, can you turn her up? Oh, gosh.
It's your fault.
Let me turn this down.
Television. I can't stop watching.
When we come back, it's probably going to be 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. Ooh. Okay. I'll close this out because we'll have 5 seconds. Ooh. Barbara, thank you so much. I know you're so busy. And I just thank you for being with us today.
No. Thank you. No. Thank you so much for making this information available to everybody. Very vital.
No, I mean, I know Daryl's easier to access because I know you're just carrying, not that he's not carrying everything, but you are carrying everything. So, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I'm going to mention in the 5 seconds I've got, WOL, 12 noon, Tuesday. Yeah. I'm going to say that real quick. I'm so sorry. I've been trying to get this information out about trying to let Hilton Kelly speak because he is so brilliant in this space. And he's one of the few voices of the vulnerable who are out here. Because he's a black man and he's, very, his politics are bottom up politics. And so he, his voice needs to be heard, but we don't get a chance to, it's not platformed enough. So thank you so much for being on with him and giving him space. Because he sees so much. Whew.
So where's Reverend today?
Well, he is, he's been out and about. He's on his way to church right now. He's on his way to church, and I think he's going to run by and see the Kenyan runners. They'll be finished in this race in 2 minutes. Oh yeah.
Amazing.
They're amazing. And so, because the Kenyan ambassador to the United States came in, has come in for the race, but he came over to push to be with Reverend yesterday.
Love it.
And so we're going to do that and have dinner with them. An early dinner this afternoon.
Great.
He wants to burn the candle at both ends, but we try not to let him do it. But he's going to do what he wants to do.
Trying to give him some rest.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't believe in that. That drives him crazy. Oh my gosh.
I'm so glad all of you, and he has, all his children and his family to just support him, because it's just so much, and I know he's going crazy.
And he's gonna make everybody crazy. But look, my father has denied us nothing. I've never known a day where I've not felt his full presence. And so it is my privilege and my honor to be able to do anything for him at this point in his life. Because he's done everything for me throughout mine, including letting me come here. So there's that. So whatever he needs, he's got it.
And everybody, we're all saying happy birthday to him, because Reverend's not just on his birth date, he celebrates for 3 months.
Honey, you know what? I think that's a disease in the Jackson family. we celebrate. I'm like, oh, it's July. Well, no, it's summertime now. My birthday's coming. Oh my gosh. Can't help it. Look, I'm glad the Lord lets me have them. How about that?
Amen.
Here we go.
Okay. Oh wow, we do have 2 seconds. Okay. Okay, but I'm going to say WOL. Check Barbara out. Yeah.
You're listening to
Let me see
Keep
how
Hope
fast I
Alive.
can do all
We
this.
want to hear from you.
Mhm.
Please
Let me see how
email
fast I
your
can do it
questions
all.
or comments to Reverend Jesse Jackson at Keep Hope Alive Radio.
Keep Hope Alive. Barbara Arnwine, WOL, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday. Keep Hope Alive. Everybody's here October 21st at Rainbow Push. Vigilantes Inc. God bless you.
With Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information.
That was pretty good.
Oh.
That was very good. All right, now.
Oh, please.
Thank you so much, Santita.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Greg, let's keep talking. We got a lot
Okay, and I'll see you in Savannah, Barbara, and Santita. I'll be coming in Tuesday night.
Okay, well then I will see you on Wednesday.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
But I'll speak with you before
All right.
then, because I've got to get that. I need to get that poster from you.
All right.
Oh, yes. Okay, I'm going to make that note now.
No,
Thank
no
you.
worries. I'm going to send you the address for Rainbow Push. If you could put that on there.
Right. Well, you want something electronic, too. I'm going to have both.
Okay,
So
great.
that you have something electronic to send out.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I'll do that
We're
today.
going to do all of
All right.
that.
Thank you. Blessings on this Sunday. Thank you. Bye.
Blessings to you and thank you. Love you.
Okay.
Love you. Love you. Love you. Love you. Ryan, say hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
Since he was going to be on the air early today. That's all right. We worked it out. I'm not mad. Thank you. Love you. Okay, everybody. I'm out of here. Whew. God bless you. See you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Ooh, ooh.